Well, welcome everybody to this episode of Over It. It's Dr. Donna Gilman, and I am so excited because I have two of my favorite people here today, and you will also recognize them from past episodes. We have Andrea and Julie here, and we're all hanging out after a glorious women's weekend here in my home in Conway. And I just wanted to invite Andrea and Julie to talk a little bit with me about just the experience of women coming together, maybe a little bit about this weekend. What do you see as the benefits and maybe even the challenges of making the time in your own schedules to be at something like this, a whole weekend ladies get together, what you got out of it, just anything, what is it like being with a bunch of gals for 3 days straight?
100%, 1,000% amazing and a must do. I mean, I can't even imagine not doing this. And I think the hardest thing about doing this is kind of gearing up in your brain that it's okay to set aside a weekend to go away with girls and not have a plan. And there's no like set purpose that you're like, oh, we're going to hike XYZ mountain
or it's somebody's birthday.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's just, no, we're going to get together and it's going to organically become the most meaningful weekend of the year for me.
Oh,
which it is.
Absolutely. I could not agree more. I feel so thankful to Donna and to you, Andrea, also for kind of like starting this ball rolling. Of course, Donna, for opening up your incredibly inspirational hometown, your friends that just dropped by, bringing this merry band of women together was new to me. I've done it with other people, but never hung out this way with the two of you and the others that were here. And so certainly for me, it was not only made my life, fuller, more belly laughs, more spiritual, but also I feel like I made some new friends. And that is, to me, my, I don't know where I would be without my friends, old and new. So I'm really grateful to you for that and for making this the canvas for having that happen.
Oh, so awesome.
Well, go ahead, Andrew.
I was just going to draw on the concept of making new friends because so many people think that you hit a certain point in life, like you're no longer in school or you're not in these your kids are no longer in school, so you're not in situations where you're meeting new people. And people think that they can't make new friends after a certain point. And I think some of the friendships I've made since that somebody would think, oh, I'm not going to make new friends because that time is gone, are like the greatest friends and the most connected friends.
Right. So important and so interesting. And in fact, there's tons of evidence-based research that says this, but we only have to look to each other, as our own evidence that like the more you grow your communities, especially as you get older, 100% as you get older, the fuller your life is. And the more interesting and the more spontaneous and it's just like everything good grows from your being in community and also growing that community. So I could not be more grateful for having been with you guys this weekend and more thankful to Donna for making it happen.
Wow, thank you. And I was thinking last night, like there were maybe like a core 4 women here, and then there were another 2 women who joined at various points of the weekend. And I was thinking, okay, between, at least, the 4 of us, the 4 core women that were here throughout the weekend, we have 8 children among the 4 of us, and some of whom are grown. But thinking about the challenges even to this, today, we're
We
still
have
so
9.
busy.
I'm just gonna say.
Oh,
we
you
have
have 9. You have
Yeah.
3,
Yeah.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Oh, 8. Right.
I only have
Sorry.
1.
All right. So I was a French major. Sorry. Math was never my thing.
I was
Sorry.
like, where's the
Oh my
ninth
gosh.
child?
I'm like, okay, wait. All right.
No.
All right. Sorry. Yeah.
Not a 9th child.
Yeah.
No, just 8. But still, even though like you all have raised your children, I still am raising a child. There's still the challenges, like where you came all the way almost from New York. Andrea came from Boston. People came from all over. Partners, work, still the demands of family.
Pets.
Pets. How hard do you feel it is for you to kind of honor this kind of time and space?
Well, I want to give you a lot of credit because you kept the weeks leading up, you kept, chiming in with a text message like, just want you to know anybody's welcome the day before.
Yeah.
If it would help you with your work to be, work from here because you don't think you're going to get out in time, or, you just kept asking questions. When do you think you could leave? I don't want to hear about work, because it can't be you can't all of a sudden wake up and say, I'm not coming because I have too much work.
Yeah.
Right. Because the work is going to be there on Monday.
But it's hard to pull yourself away. That's the reality, right?
It's so hard to pull yourself away. And I was really stressed out all week because I knew it was so important for me to have at least starting at a certain time on Friday afternoon clear. And it was a little later than I wanted to be. Like when I left my house was the time I wanted to arrive.
Yeah.
But I thank God I, called you when I was standing in my closet and you're like, you just got to get on the road,
just
girl.
Get out of the house.
You just got to go.
Just get out of the house. Yeah. You're like, should I bring one yoga mat or should I bring an extra yoga mat? I'm like, just take what you've got and walk out the door and just get in the car. And,
As somebody who did the most ridiculous job of packing and probably has worn like the same thing for the whole weekend because I packed ridiculous clothes, I agree.
Yeah.
Sometimes, we get in our own way so much. And I think, in my work, I try to help women to get out of their own way, and let things kind of just be. And I think that the more we think about how many yoga mats or oh my God, it's like I have one t-shirt with me or one, whatever, the more those become obstacles and, anything can be an obstacle.
Right.
What's your partner doing? Did somebody pull you in another direction? Your work, your kids, even though our children are grown, we're still, we talk about this all the time. We are, parenting adult children is as challenging in its own way as parenting children that are still in that formation mode, because it's you get to a place where you're like, what is your place as a parent?
Right.
You're still their parent, but what's your place as their parent?
And then there's our own aging parents.
So that's like, don't get us.
And us aging.
Oh my God.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, in some ways, right now we're still looking out. Like I'm still raising a kid. You guys are still looking out for your adult children. We've got our ailing and aging and passing parents. We have our own changing bodies and diminishing energy levels, and we need self-care and all of that. I mean, just juggling all of those demands.
Yeah, but we can do it because we're women. But sometimes we have to stop and be in community and just be where we were this weekend, because I think from what happened here this weekend, which was completely organic, all of it, I think we're all going to be, we're all going to go into our weeks and into our summers and into into our jobs and into our menopause and into our into our roles in the millions of things that we are, just better for it. So not to make the time to be with girlfriends, and spend time talking about the things that we talked about, I think is you're not serving yourself well if you don't make it I don't know if it can be your number one priority because, over the course of time, your priorities obviously have to, be reimagined sometimes, but not to do it is really, I think, a disservice to yourself and essentially to everybody that you touch, because
Right.
everybody comes away from a weekend like we had better, enriched, calmer, more spiritual, more, whatever, more, laughter, cooking together, the sister wife concept is just like incredible. And it really, it's really, it really works. And I think it's really important to nurture it.
Do you feel there's anything in particular? You use the word transformational, Andrea. Is there anything in particular you feel like you are taking away from this that will stay with you?
Yeah, definitely. I was thinking about what Julie was just saying, and I was thinking about how I know about myself that I need that push, right? That I needed you to tell me to get up and go. And but I also know that my relationship with you and my close women friends is the foundation of everything for me. It's who I need to talk to, because as I'm talking through something that I'm going through, I'm going to learn from you guys.
Mm-hmm.
And it's great to be able to do that, with a phone call, but there's nothing like being in the same room together and hearing from each other, and that the female feedback that I think we all received this weekend is, it's going to keep you thinking, and you're going to go home with something. I know you are. You're going to go home and you're going to try something. And I have things in my mind that I am taking away that I'm going to remember. It's like going to be so present for me that I'm going to, when I wake up in the morning and I don't want to get out of bed, I know it's going to get me out of bed. It's going to be some of the stuff that we talked about. And it's about who I want to be as a person. And you are like my mirrors in that.
Right. And we're mirroring love and respect
Right.
and honor towards you and curiosity. I feel like all the blessings are mine to have you here in my home, and just to see connections forming between different friends who didn't know one another. It just brings me so much joy. And our group this weekend ranged in age, let's say maybe from 51 to 67. I think is roughly the age range. And I recently, prior to this weekend, was talking to a friend of mine who is more isolated, and she has friends, but she doesn't have a community of friends. And she's been really going through menopause without really being able to have intimate conversations with other women. And when we got together, we really threw down and we're talking about how it is. And she said several times, like almost with tears, like, I can't tell you how much this means to me, because I feel like I've been going crazy and I have nobody to talk to. And my doctor kind of sloughs me off.
Right.
And I always come back to like what an important like time in our lives this is. Like the gifts of this age, I think, are innumerable. I mean, I think the wisdom that we've gained and what we stand on, the foundation under our feet and all of that, and the friendships, but also the challenges are intense of perimenopause and menopause, and just this seemingly endless journey. Like nobody knows when it's going to end, and it constantly changes. Right. And you finally get to a place where you're like, okay, I can deal with these symptoms, and then something else crops up. Do you guys want to talk a little bit about, I mean, you can get as personal or as you want, but like about either just what it's like to be able to talk to other women about that, or anything about your own personal journey you'd be willing to share?
I've just been really annoyed that I feel like my body and the way I feel in my body and some of the kind of physical, not even physical changes. I think it's almost like maybe you can't even see them, but I know that they're there.
Right.
Like body, like how my body functions.
Yes.
I don't know how else to put it. And that it's the medical community is just silent on it. I find it very annoying, and I don't understand it. And like I was saying, I hear on the radio about, erectile dysfunction or whatever they call it, like 17 times a day.
Right.
And I don't know when the world's going to wake up and talk about women's health and invest in women's health. Because
there's
a real need for that.
There's a void. I mean, I think that, the information is out there, but there are no solutions. I mean, there are no,
and there's no one
solutions.
Size fits all.
And there's exactly. So every of the, the four of us there, we had some common experiences and symptoms of menopause, but also things that were totally unique to us, individually. And so I think menopause is a very lonely experience in a lot of ways because of how disparate it can be. And it sucks, there's not much good about it. As far as I can tell.
Unless you're happy to be rid of your period.
Every year I ask my doctor at my annual, I'm like, come on, give me something. Give me something. She's like, well, you don't get your period anymore. I'm like, oh, all right, it has to be better than that. Like, you have to give me something more than that, because that is just not doing it anymore. Like, she's like, and she just kind of throws up her hands. And I feel like, because of that, because there's no template for it for anybody. You don't know when it starts. It's almost hard to put your finger on when it even started for you.
I know, because I remember years and years ago waking up in like pools of sweat.
Yeah.
And
it's not just about your period.
No, and I thought it was all stress. Like I was worried about the kids, or I was worried about paying the bills, or I was worried about whatever I was worried about. And so I thought I was waking up in a pool of sweat because of stress. I don't know. Maybe that was perimenopause.
Right. I think it's this like amorphous, weird, blobby, moving object that kind of sometimes lands on you. And you're like, oh, what was that? And then you move on, you just move on. And you then you put this together, put that together. And all of a sudden that's your menopause.
Right.
And then, my menopause is, all right, to be fair, we're all sweating. That's for sure. But like, other than that, like, there's different, people have different feelings going on in their body or their brain or their ability to, even think. You feel like your cognition is like,
what about
you're like, wow,
fog?
I used to be really smart. I used to be able to remember everything.
Recall.
I prided myself on remembering everybody's name, even if I met you one time. And now I could be talking to someone I've known for 50 years, and I'm like, how is that person's name?
Right.
And I can't even pay attention to what they're saying to me, because I'm like, what's that person's name? Like, and I'm like, A, B, C, D. And then that actually works for me, going through the alphabet. And sometimes I'm like, oh, right. Of course, Hannah. Of course. That's,
Over It is proudly sponsored by the Couples Center of the Pioneer Valley, offering specialized services to couples and individuals with relationship issues and concerns. Check them out on the web at pioneervalleycouplestherapy.com or call them at 413-570-0067.
This moment.
Yes.
And guess who gets the charades? Our women friends.
Well, that's it.
Our women friends can answer any of our charades questions.
And at the end, at least we can laugh. Like, at least we can laugh our way forward together and know we're not going crazy.
Right. But it's not laughable. It's like really...
It's hard.
It's really hard. We do laugh because what else can we do? But, it's hard. It's really hard.
Yeah,
And
if you don't have friends that you can talk about this with, it is lonely. And you can't laugh about it. And it's scary and it's sad and it's confusing. But thank God we have each other to talk to each other about.
I don't know that I'm going to say there's anything good about menopause, but what I will say is I think it is a rite of passage. Like going through adolescence is a rite of passage. It's neither good nor bad. It just is. And I feel like whether you birth a child or a child comes into your life in some other way, becoming a parent can be a rite of passage.
There is a word for it, actually. It's called matrescence.
Matrescence.
And it's actually a very underutilized word, but it's getting more and more attention. Matrescence is like adolescence or menopause.
Right.
It has there's some commonalities in my body is changing. My brain isn't working the same way. I'm having all kinds of feelings. They're very deep and profound, but I'm not quite familiar with them. I have zits, whatever, and I have a baby here that I'm trying to get to know.
Matrescence,
And matrescence is, so it's an interesting and really important, it's a gigantic change in your life.
Ginormous.
A gigantic change and a huge, long chapter from the time you become a parent. You never unbecome a parent or a mother after that. And so it's a chapter that, of course, begins whenever you have a child, or even for people that are pregnant in their pregnancy, and then lasts for the rest of your life. So you're constantly evolving into your motherhood and your role as that. And then we're also going through all these other weirdo things like menopause,
right?
Along the way.
In some spiritual perspectives, they'll talk about the different stages of a woman's life as like, you're maiden, then your mother, and then your crone.
Right.
Right. And I always had this really negative reaction to the word crone, because we have all these negative reactions to words like witch and crone. And it brings up this ugly. But what I've learned through some of my female kind of people I look up to, let's call them spiritual mentors or just people I really admire, has helped me to see, even if you don't like the word crone, use a different word, but that there is something about absolutely honoring. Like crone actually is an honorable term. That means a woman who has gotten to a stage in her life where she is the holder of wisdom.
It's like she's the enlightened one.
She is the enlightened one. She is the healer. She is the empath. She is the intuitive. She is the teacher. She is the model. And so even if we did away with the word crone to find another word for that, but to me now I understand that that's what crone means really in these, is that is something to be proud of, and for me, that's the one thing I can kind of hang my hat on about like what I'm going through is to say, this is really hard. It's not to take anything away from that, but I'm also in a time in my life where I really want to step in and own that, like, I've paid my dues, I've made lots of mistakes in my life and lots of, and I have wisdom and I have something to share and I have something to offer, and I'm not going to hide. I'm not going to dim my light anymore. And I'm going to be open-hearted and I'm going to take the high road, but I'm still going to do self-care. To me, that's the benefit of this age or this stage in life. And even though it also, for me, is about letting go of expectations I have of my body and how it's going to look and how it's going to feel and, all of that, and maybe worries about aging and all of that. I think the thing it does help me to come back to is, but look at what you've created inside yourself, and I don't say that as self-aggrandizing, but I just mean like really from a self-love standpoint, look at where you've gotten to. And maybe you have an opportunity to be one of those women that you've admired, who is open-hearted and has something of worth to offer. And you don't get there in your maidenhood. And you don't necessarily get there in your quote unquote, I want to be careful with the word mother because we're not all mothers, but in your motherhood years. You only get there now, if you're lucky, if you're still alive and you're committed to your own work, like this is the time to celebrate. Look at who we are. Look at who we've become. And to have some pride in that.
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, again, coming full circle, why getting together with each other and learning from each other, because we each bring a lot to the table. I think we each learned from each other a lot.
So much.
This weekend in just having conversation and listening to one another.
Can you guys say something that you learned or learned about yourself?
Yeah, I would be happy to, but I just want to piggyback on what Andrea was just saying, like, and also what you were saying, Donna, like, I don't think because societally, you know, as people get older, historically, you know, our society marginalizes older people. And if we're not here for each other during this time, no one's paying attention. No one's like doing it for us.
No.
And if you have the strength and the confidence to do it yourself, you know, good for you. That's like not the average person, I would say. We need our people, our peers, our friends, to, you know, to lift us up.
Yeah. Amen.
And that's like, to me, the wonder of a woman's weekend that never fails.
Beautiful.
You know? So I guess for me, I was just thinking, you know, when you said crone, and I was like, ew, that's a gross word. But like so many words have been said this weekend that I've had like kind of visceral reactions to. And you really taught us that like, it's not like historically what a definition of a word is, but what it means to you and how you can, you know, turn the mirror back on that word and make it, you know, own it differently or make it your own, and apply whatever, you know, it means, but what does it mean to you? How does that word apply to you, to the way you think, to the way you act, to the way you go around in the world, and not just like what the actual definition is in the dictionary.
Right.
So that was a really important thing for me too. I'm really gonna take that with me.
You don't mind if I just briefly share one of the words I think that perhaps you reacted to was the word prayer.
Yeah. Which
I use very loosely. Like when we do Sacred Circle, which for listeners who aren't familiar, I mean, it's not religious at all. It's not meant to be. It's more like whatever your version of spiritual is. It's just women coming together. We get in a circle, we light candles, and we put intentions out. We put intentions out for ourselves. We put intentions out to each other, for the people we love. We put whatever you want to think of it, energy, prayer, good thoughts and intentions towards the world, etc. And the word prayer came up, and I use it very loosely, but you know, you had that kind of visceral reaction. We kind of talked about it.
Yeah.
You know, so
it was really helpful for me.
Cool.
And also just like, yeah, it was really helpful for me because I sometimes have like, you know, I get my back up a little around sometimes. Just also because I'm evolving in my own understanding of how I am a person who is attached to a religion. Like anything that seems like smacks of anything religious sometimes, you know, makes me, you know, kind of takes me aback a little bit. Even though I find my religion very spiritual. So the spiritual part of my religion, I feel very comfortable with, but anything that seems religious, you know, makes me, stops me in my tracks, I would say.
Yep.
So, yeah, so that word definitely, and a few other things that would have been considered religious also we talked about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I shared one of the things I've been really struggling with is just body acceptance. And that's been really hard. And I think about now when I see women who are in their 20s and think they look like babies and their skin, like, so, oh my God, their skin's amazing. But the reality is when I was at that age and my tits were up to my chin and, you know, all that, and I had flawless skin, I didn't appreciate it.
No.
Not only didn't I not appreciate it, I didn't like myself and I didn't think I looked good,
Right.
even though I probably looked amazing. I had no idea. And so what difference does it make? And now I'm my age and I'm still being so hard on myself, right? And now it's because, oh, I used to be more tone, or I used to be this size and now I'm that size. And, and I'm still doing the same thing to myself I did as a teenager, in my 20s and my 30s and my 40s. Now I'm all lumping in under, this effing menopause. But the reality is I'm still doing it to me. Mm-hmm. It's not like you guys are walking up to me or my partner saying, oh, what the hell's happening with you? You look horrendous. It's me. I'm still mistreating myself.
You're right.
And that's the part that I think I just, this weekend reinforced for me. I need to stop doing that to myself.
Right.
I need to stop doing it to myself. Irrespective.
How do we do it?
I think it's that inner freaking chatter. It's the self-talk. It's like literally when that thought, you look in the mirror and you go, oh, you start nitpicking yourself, right? You start picking yourself apart. And the reality is sometimes you don't feel good. It doesn't feel good to be bloated. It doesn't feel good to try on 3, 4, or 5 different things before you find something that still fits the same way. It doesn't feel good. But then I've also gone to a place recently where I'm like, I'm just buying new clothes. Because for the longest time, I was like, I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to stuff myself back into the clothes that fit 5 years ago. And recently I've been like, no, I'm going to buy new clothes so that every time I get dressed, I'm not hating myself.
It's what I tell postpartum women.
That's smart.
It's what I tell postpartum women. I'm like, stop trying to put those jeans on. Stop trying to get, that you wore, through your 4th month of gestation. Like, stop it. Buy new clothes. Go to Target and buy clothes that are cute, that are fashionable, that will make you feel current and feminine, and things will change. Maybe things will go back to what you're more familiar with, but this is, people say, I want my body back. And I say, your body never went anywhere.
That's great.
Your body
that's powerful.
Your body never went anywhere. Your body's still with you. And look what your body did. And
well, that's our bodies are doing something now too.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's part of the menopause struggle, but that's part of it, right? How do we not disparage our bodies? We don't like what our bodies are doing. I didn't like what my body was doing during pregnancy. Mm-hmm. I didn't like it. Mm-hmm. I wasn't like, oh, this is amazing. I love having like this protruding belly and my back hurting and my breasts felt like they were going to explode. I wasn't celebrating that. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I'm not saying we should celebrate being in pain and sweating our balls off, feminine balls off, but like, it's still like, how do we accept it and not loathe it and not resent the process? That is an inherently, yet again, another inherently female process.
What's the answer?
I don't know. I think it's just
women's
us talking.
Weekends, yeah.
Women's weekends.
Well, yes. Women's weekends talking about it is helpful because you're not alone in those feelings and in those changes and experiences. I think one of the things I take away from this weekend is kind of, I agree, like need to shed that chatter that's negative, that I'm not good enough. I don't do enough. I don't respond in the right ways or whatever. All that negative chatter doesn't help. And I leave, and I think I said this last night or some form of it. I leave this weekend saying, I'm going to wake up every day and I'm going to do the things that are going to that I think are going to make me feel like I'm doing the right things to create the best version of me. And if I'm doing those things every day, then that's the best I can do. And that's going to be enough.
Right. That has to be enough.
And that has to be enough.
And that has to be enough. And I am enough. You are enough. Mm-hmm. Just the relentless feeling of like guilt or inadequacy, or if only I did more, I gave more.
Right.
I loved more.
What was the parrot? The parrot was, be careful of the words.
Yeah. So we pulled animal spirit cards last night. You got the parrot. It was be careful of your words. And we were initially all like, the words. And it was really all about self-talk.
Right.
The talk, be careful of the words you use with yourself.
Right.
Right.
So that was a huge takeaway.
Yeah. Yeah. We all got something. Well, I just want to say again, since we are the last 3 remaining at the end of this weekend, because people have already started to leave, that it's just been such a delight and joy.
Well, you have such a beautiful heart.
Oh.
And when people say home is where the heart is, your home is an enormous enveloping hug of a place. Well, you should cry. It's truly so beautiful. Like you should be so overwhelmed with pride and joy that this is what you've created.
Well, I feel really grateful. I feel very grateful that, you know, I have friends that would get in their vehicles after their long weeks and drive 2, 3 hours, 3.5 hours to be here. Like, it just makes me feel so grateful. And I really hope that for our listeners, even if you can't pull off a whole weekend, invite a few girls over, a few ladies over, even from different parts of your life. Don't even worry. Oh, is this one going to like that one? Are they going to get along? Are they going to have anything in common? Blah, blah, blah. Just put out some snacks and keep it real and have an afternoon together. I guarantee, you know, something magic will come out of that. And I just really encourage our listeners, if you're not already doing it, to lean in to friendships, to female friendships, and make the time for it, because to me, it's the key to my life. Key to life.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you. And thank you for giving us the space to do that.
Thank you for stepping into it. And to all of our Over It sisters out there, we love you. We're grateful for you. And we'll see you at the next episode.
Control yourself. Don't drink too much. Don't talk too much. Don't look that way. Don't stare at that boy. Don't giggle. Don't wiggle. That's too short.